Hi, I'm Chris Bragg, the Senior Resident Superior Court Judge for Union County. Welcome to This Is Your Court. This program is designed to educate and inform the citizens of Union County about our third branch of government, the judicial branch. As we all know, it is election time, and there are contested judicial elections on the 2016 ballot. This year, due to the retirement of Judge David Lee, there will be an election to fill his seat on the Superior Court. Superior Court elections are by judicial district, and Union County is a single county judicial district. Therefore, the voters of Union County will determine who will fill Judge Lee's seat. Superior Court judges are elected to 8-year terms, so the winner of this year's election will hold office through December 31st, 2024. The Superior Court hears civil cases in which the amount in controversy exceeds $25,000. It is also the proper division for certain special proceedings, condemnation actions, corporate receiverships, review of decisions of administrative agencies, and for the probate of wills and administration of estates. As for criminal cases, the Superior Court handles all felony cases and misdemeanor cases appealed from the district court. Both criminal and civil cases in Superior Court are tried before a 12-person jury. The North Carolina Constitution requires Superior Court judges to rotate between judicial districts or ride the circuit. Each Superior Court judge holds court for at least 6 months in a Superior Court district. The rotation method was developed to avoid any favoritism that might result from always having the same judge hold court where he or she may live. Joining me on today's program is Superior Court Judge Jeff Carpenter, one of 2 candidates for Union County Superior Court. Judge Carpenter, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Judge Bragg. It's an honor to be with you.
Now, Judge, before we get into your interview, I just explained that the upcoming election is to fill the seat that was open when Judge Lee retired. Can you explain how you became a Superior Court judge prior to the November election?
Judge Lee retired beginning February 1 of this year, which left a vacancy in his seat that would have remained open until 2016. It's my understanding that we have a workload that continues to grow in the absence of the judge that was supposed to be here to do the work. So his retirement created additional workload on you, being the only judge here in Union County. And there was a determination made that an appointment would be made to fill the remainder of that term pending the outcome of the election. It's my understanding that they ran background checks and looked at credentials and resumes and recommendations and made phone calls to try to do their due diligence to cover their bases. And at the end of that process, Governor McQuarrie appointed me to fill the remainder of the term of Judge Lee pending the outcome of the November election.
So, in other words, now you will hold office regardless of the election until December 31st of this year.
That is correct.
Okay. And then if elected, you'd continue on.
That is correct.
Okay. Well, Judge, for those citizens who may not know you, could you tell us who is Jeff Carpenter?
Jeff Carpenter is the son of an electrician and a administrative assistant. I grew up in southern Anson County. My dad was an electrician. My mother was an administrative assistant. I was educated at Anson County Schools. Lifetime North Carolinian, never lived anywhere but here. My wife is the former Love Medford. She and I were married after we fortuitously met in Highway Patrol School. We grew up about 20 miles from each other, but ended up meeting in Highway Patrol School in Raleigh, and we were both troopers. I was on the Highway Patrol for 6 years, and after much prayerful thought and discussion with my wife, we decided that law school was the proper route. And looking back on it, it's probably looking simply at the facts, probably quite an illogical decision looking simply at the facts, but after much prayerful consideration, we knew in our hearts it was the right thing to do, and we've been blessed, and things have worked out very well. But I have no complaints whatsoever. So we end up going back to law school, and I was stationed in Richmond County when I was a trooper, so we lived in the house that we bought when we first got married back in 1996. Actually, I'm about 6 days short of my 20th wedding anniversary, Judge Bragg, and
Congratulations.
I'm much better with her than I would ever have been without her, and I'd marry her again tomorrow. So we ended up in Richmond County. We lived in that house. The judicial district at the time that I started practicing law consisted of Anson, Richmond, Stanley, and Union. Anson was right in the middle with the intent to practice in all those jurisdictions, and I have practiced in all those jurisdictions since I began practicing law. My practice was exclusively trial work. I appeared in the trial courts every day. And we now live in New Salem, and my son attends New Salem Elementary. He's in the 5th grades. Last year at the elementary school. Will be Piedmont Middle next year. And Love is currently works from home. She's an executive director with the Pampered Chef.
Okay. Why are you seeking the election to Superior Court?
I was actually, again, I was a trial attorney for 13 years, appearing in Superior Court almost on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. So the trial courts of North Carolina is all I've known as a practicing lawyer. But I received a call from leaders of our community who I've known well, and I was asked if I would have any interest in it, which started a spark with me. And as time grew near, when Judge Lee had announced his retirement, the thought process became much more serious. And again, Love and I, my wife and I, talked about the transition from private practice into this type of position, and whether it would be beneficial to our family, would work for our family. And then after much prayerful thought, again, I knew in my heart that it was the right thing to do. So I made a few phone calls to make sure of judges that I'd practiced in front of that didn't have a stakeholder's interest. I specifically did not call you. I called a very dear friend of mine who had tried several cases in front of out of Iredell County, and simply asked, hey, do I have the aptitude to this? And I was very happy to hear that you absolutely do. You'll do fine. And that's been the transition into this. So the question was, why am I seeking this position? At this point, it's largely because I want to keep the job, but I have a skill set of being a trial practitioner. What folks may or may not know about the trial courts, and specifically the Superior Court, is what we do is largely jury trials. In the last 10 years, I've probably tried somewhere close to 50 jury trials to verdict, from complex civil cases to the more complex criminal cases, all the way down to the very simple civil and complex cases. So I thought that I had a skill set that would lend itself well to being able to go in with, obviously there was going to be a learning curve because it's a different perspective, but to go in and sort of hit the ground running as much as one could under the circumstances. And that's, I think I have something to offer to the court system with my experience having been a trooper on the other side of the prosecution. So I've been in public service on the state side before. And then with the skill set that I developed as a trial lawyer, learning the rules of evidence, the rules of civil procedure, courtroom decorum, building relationships with the people that are there. What I've found out that judges sort of control the decorum of the courtroom, but how the courtroom runs largely is dependent upon your relationships with the clerk, your court reporter, your bailiffs, because those folks can make your courtroom run very smoothly, or they can create a very problematic issue if you don't have good relationships with them. So why back to your question, why am I seeking the position? because I was blessed to be asked to consider it. Someone besides me thought I had the skill set for it. Secondly, I think I have a skill set that lends itself well to doing this job. And thirdly, to return to public service. I missed my time on the Highway Patrol. There are largely two personality types that I observed when I was in public service before, is the type that crave the authority of the office and the type that really just want to help people and do the right thing. I had a training officer on the Highway Patrol that was of the we just want to help people and do the right thing personality, and I believe that I have that personality as well. It's not about the authority of the office for me. It's being able to do what I can to benefit the community and the people.
All right, thank you. Who is your opponent in this year's election?
My opponent is Robert Palmer. My understanding is Robert has a pretty substantial real estate transactional practice and does some domestic work, but based in Marshall.
What characteristics, Judge, do you think are important to be a Superior Court judge?
I think probably the two most important, and one is a little more important than the other. One is temperament. Judicial temperament is incredibly important. I've practiced in front of judges that I thought were really, really good judges, and I've practiced in front of judges that I did not have that same thought about. And the common denominator from what I deemed were the really, really good judges were the judges that had good judicial temperament. You have that asset in your toolbox. Treating people with dignity and respect always lends itself well, and it doesn't matter whether you're talking to the attorneys that are litigating the cases, the clerks who are in your courtroom, who are keeping your records, your court reporter who's making a transcription of everything that takes place. Treating everyone with dignity and respect is the key to that judicial temperament. And secondly, I think integrity and intellect are big portions of the characteristics needed for being successful in this position.
What life experiences have prepared you to serve as a Superior Court judge?
I guess I probably got that cart a little ahead of the horse. I'll touch on some things that I haven't yet. Largely, I have been a highway patrolman, which introduced me to the court system some 23 years ago now. So I've seen the court system and public service from a different perspective. This is not my first endeavor into public service. And that's a very unique perspective that allows me a greater level of understanding in regards to the struggles that the DA's office have in getting evidence, preparing cases, lining up witnesses, and also a very beneficial understanding of what the officers' mindsets are in preparing these cases. Because I've walked in those shoes, it's hugely beneficial. And one of the skills that I learned when I was on the highway patrol as well was the ability to quickly build a rapport with people. But it largely goes back to what I deem as Rodney's rules. Rodney was my training officer. Be as good to people as they'll let you be, and still do your job to the best of your ability. Largely, treat everybody else the way you'd like to be treated. So that was very important. I've also ran my own business in regards to my trial practice. I've managed a payroll, made sure that my folks were taken care of, and sometimes that meant that my people that were my employees got paid, even if maybe I didn't. But you learn that your people always come first, and you learn how to manage your resources in an effective and efficient manner. And then now, having presided over, I don't know, maybe 10 trials, civil and criminal at this point, the learning curve is dissipated, and The experience that I've gained since being on the bench has been incredibly invaluable.
You've served as a highway patrolman, as a trial attorney, and now as a Superior Court judge. What challenges do you see that face the Superior Court?
Two, and sort of a third one that's part of the second one, if that makes sense. One is the courts are largely operating with the same resources now that we were 10 years ago. But the workload has increased because we have more cases as far as, especially on the criminal side. And what may not be known from the outside looking in is that I'd say probably about 65 to 70% of the work we do in Superior Court is criminal. And probably about 30 to 35% is civil. So the criminal workload has increased pretty substantially over the last 10 years, but the resources available to the court system to address the increase in workload have not. They're largely the same. So that's what I see as one of the major challenges going forward. And I also see, and from time to time, in an adversarial process, there's always going to be someone who would have liked to see things turn out a different way. And I think that it's incumbent upon the judges to see that the integrity and independence of the judiciary is maintained.
If elected and you remain on the bench, what efforts do you think you could take to overcome any of those challenges?
I believe that the experience of having run my own business, the work ethic that I've developed working with my father growing up and on the highway patrol when I was working there and in private practice, lends itself well to maximizing the resources that we have available, using the time and resources that we have efficiently to accomplish the work that needs to be done. And there's always, and you've certainly discovered this, Judge Bragg, but there is a feel that you get in doing this job. Some cases that may be at a certain stage are not ripe for disposition, where 2 weeks later they may be, and you just kind of get a feel for that. You can waste a lot of time and resource trying to force resolution of a case that will probably resolve on its own and consume much less resources, say maybe 2 weeks down the road. And it's just a skill set that you develop, a feel for where you are and what's going on. And that's the magic, the missing piece of the puzzle, is being able to get that feel for handling the cases and moving them through the process, so you actually get the beneficial use of the resources that are available to you.
And Judge Carpenter, what would you like to say to the citizens of Union County about your candidacy for the Superior Court?
I would like to say to the citizens of Union County that I have been doing this job since June. I think all accounts so far are positive, that the learning curve has not been as steep as I anticipated, and that I'm doing a good job in it. I haven't run across anyone that would say otherwise. At least they haven't to me. But I would tell the citizens of Union County that they don't have to take my word for it. We have open courts. I'm assigned here in Union County until the end of the year. They can come and watch. They can call anyone that they know in the clerk's office who has been in court with me, anyone who works at the sheriff's office who's served in the bailiff's role that's been there, any of the lawyers that actually maintain a trial practice that are in the courts and take their own report card on me. They have an option to go back and check the facts that I've set forth and hold me to what I said and make sure I'm shooting them straight. So I've got good support in the community from folks that I've built really good relationships with over the years. Sheriff Kathy and I have been friends for 25 years going back from the highway to the highway patrol days. Our clerk of court here was also a trooper, and we've been very dear friends for 20 more years, and I've got good support from good people, and but the sheriff and the clerk and the folks that know me and know me well are also straight shooters. So by all means, do your homework, find them, ask them what they think, and they'll give you an honest assessment, I promise, based on the years of experience I've had with them and telling it like it is.
Judge Carpenter, I want to thank you for joining me on today's program and giving the voters of Union County some insight as to who you are and why you're running to remain a Superior Court judge. I'd also like to urge the citizens of Union County to exercise your constitutional right to vote. Early voting begins October 20th, 2016, and runs through November 5th, with Election Day on Tuesday, November 8th. I also want to point out that the election of the Superior Court is a nonpartisan election and will be found at the bottom of page 2 of your ballot. Please do not overlook or miss your opportunity to vote on this important contested election for Superior Court. Finally, many thanks to Union County's Public Information Officer, Brett Vines, for making this program possible. Until next time, I am Judge Chris Bragg, and this is your court.